everyone. Welcome to Sam's Summaries. This episode is a deep dive discussion into Sam Fury's summary of the book The Joy of Sex by Dr. Alex Comfort. It has been created with the help of AI. You can read the original summary at samfury.com.
All right, diving into The Joy of Sex. Pretty brave choice, I'd say. We're going deep on this one, folks. Seeing if this classic guide still, holds up in the 21st century. And let me tell you, Dr. Alex Comfort, this guy had some ideas. Still pretty thought-provoking even today.
He did. It's amazing how much of, like, what we talk about today with intimacy, goes back to his work. But has it all aged well? That's the question, isn't it?
Exactly. So we'll start where Comfort starts. Foundations of joy. Right off the bat, he's laying out, like, these essential ingredients. And I got to be honest, some of them surprised me.
Oh, yeah, he goes way beyond the obvious. I mean, everyone knows communication's important, but he's saying it's not just, avoiding fights. It's, like, built into pleasure itself.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way. Like, how's he connecting talking to actual, physical pleasure?
He talks about this, feedback loop. You're listening, responding to your partner's cues, not just words, but everything. And that back and forth is what makes it more intense for both people.
Okay, so it's more than just, hey, I like this. It's a constant conversation while it's happening.
You got it. Which brings us to, this is another one that got me, tenderness. Comfort says it's not just a nice feeling, it physically changes how we react to touch.
Wait, seriously? How does that work?
Well, think about it. Yeah. When you feel safe, cared for, your muscles relax, right? Breathing gets deeper, and suddenly you're more sensitive to everything. But if you're stressed, tense, it's like your body's fighting the good feeling.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense. Stress kills the mood, big time. So saying tenderness is the opposite, it opens you up.
Exactly. And then there's this whole thing about hormones. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Comfort was onto this way back when. They're huge in desire and arousal, but it's not just about, drive like people think.
Yeah, we're not robots.
Yeah.
What did he say about how hormones, actually impact the experience?
He pointed out they go up and down all the time, throughout the day, the month, your whole life even. And that changes everything, how much energy you have, how sensitive you are to touch. He even suggests, tracking your cycles to know when you might be more into certain things.
Wow, that's actually smart. Never thought of being that self-aware about my sex life.
And lastly, this one's a curveball, confidence. He says it matters more than looks for feeling good about yourself sexually.
Really? I mean, come on, we all have insecurities.
Oh, he knows that. But he's talking about a different kind of confidence. Not perfect body, but feeling good in your own skin, enjoying your body.
So how I feel about myself matters more than how I think I look to someone else.
Exactly. Comfort believed when you have that, it shows, you radiate it, and that's attractive.
Okay, I can see that. If you're comfortable, you're probably more relaxed, more fun to be around. That makes sense. Wasn't this pretty radical back then, though?
Oh, totally. He was going against everything society was saying, looks are everything. He's like, nope. How you feel matters. And honestly, that message is probably even more important now with all the pressure from social media and stuff.
So true. All right, communication, tenderness, hormones, confidence. Mm-hmm. This is already way deeper than I thought.
Oh, we're just getting started. Wait till we get to the earlobes. Comfort really gets into it, exploring erogenous zones. And this is where, some of it hasn't aged so gracefully, I'd say.
Oh, really? Now I'm curious. I mean, erogenous zones, that's pretty basic, right?
Yeah.
What's so controversial there?
He was thorough, really thorough. He maps out this whole landscape of pleasure points, including some that, maybe not so much anymore. Armpits, earlobes, big toes even. He's saying pleasure's everywhere, and I get that in principle, but I think some folks today might be like, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like he wanted to break the mold so bad, he ended up making a whole new set of rules.
Right. Experimentation is great, but not every part of the body is going to be a hot spot for everyone.
So it's less about following his map literally.
Yeah.
And more about understanding that pleasure can be found in unexpected places.
Exactly. And this is where communication, again, is huge. It's about talking to your partner, figuring out what feels good for both of you, and not being afraid to say, okay, maybe not that.
Makes sense. So foundations, erogenous zones, comfort's version at least. But I know what people are waiting for. The techniques, the positions. Did he deliver, or is this where the joy of sex starts to feel a little vintage?
Well, he definitely gets into the mechanics, that describes all these techniques, positions, some with names that are creative, to say the least. But where I think he really shines is this. He says technique is more important than any specific position.
So not about memorizing the Kama Sutra and checking boxes.
Nope. It's about understanding like touch, pressure, rhythm, and how to use those to make things feel good. It's a dance, not a set of instructions.
I love that analogy. It goes back to communication, right?
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for both of you, trying things out.
Absolutely. And even if some of the positions themselves seem a bit outdated, the message about technique and communication is timeless, really.
Okay, gotta ask though, any positions you think are still, like, relevant, worth trying? Purely for research purposes, of course.
Well, the Saxonus is interesting. It gives the woman a lot of control, the angle, the depth. Comfort thought that could be really enjoyable for women who like to feel more in charge during sex.
That's pretty cool. And it's not just the physical sensation, right? It's the dynamic between the partners.
Totally. It challenges that whole, man's active, woman's passive. Yeah.
Sharing control, which is a big theme in relationships these days, I think.
Absolutely. And Comfort was ahead of his time on that one for sure.
Okay, so foundations, erogenous zones, even ventured into positions a little. But Comfort goes even further, right? Beyond just the physical stuff, there's the mind, the mood.
You're right. He has this whole section called Beyond the Physical. That's one of the parts that's really insightful, I think, and it holds up even today.
Like, what are some of the big takeaways there?
Well, for starters, he talks about fantasy. Big believer in that, how it plays into arousal. And that sharing fantasies with your partner, that can actually make you closer.
Now, this is where some people might get a little uncomfortable. Sharing fantasies, that's pretty vulnerable.
He knew that, but he stresses, like, creating a safe space, no judgment, He thought that when couples can open up about that stuff, it builds trust, intimacy, and it can lead to some pretty exciting exploration in the bedroom.
Good point. It's not about some perfect idea of what sex should be. It's about trying new things.
Exactly. He also talks about, what happens after sex.
Afterward, like cuddling and stuff.
Exactly. Those moments, he says, they're just as important. It's about staying connected.
Something I'm trying to be better about myself, honestly. Easy to just roll over and fall asleep, but those moments after, yeah, they can be special.
He also talks about how age and illness don't mean the end of intimacy, Couples can adapt, find ways to connect, even as their bodies change.
That's a great message, especially with how much our society, equates being young with being sexy.
He was fighting against that big time, saying intimacy, pleasure, those are things you can enjoy your whole life.
This is making me rethink a lot of things, honestly. It's not just about the act itself, it's all these other layers. Communication, tenderness, fantasy, connection. Wow, it's a lot to process.
It is. And we're not even done yet. Comfort still has some surprises up his sleeve.
All right, deep breaths, everyone, because this next part, it's a little spicy. We've covered the basics, the zones, even some techniques. But Comfort, he doesn't stop there. He has this whole section. He calls it sauces and pickles. And, well, let's just say some of this stuff is adventurous.
Yeah, no, he definitely pushed the boundaries. This is where he gets into, like, the fringes of intimacy, Things that might not be for everyone, but, hey, could add some spice for the curious types.
So we're talking fetishes, toys, games, outdoor fun, all that kind of stuff.
You got it. It's a whole buffet of what he calls extracurricular activities. Some definitely more out there than others, but even here, even with the sauces and pickles, Comfort's still got that same core philosophy. Even when he's talking about this less conventional stuff, it's always with this emphasis on safety, consent, communication. It's not like he's saying, everyone go do this. More like, hey, be open-minded, explore, but do it responsibly.
That makes me feel a little better. So not endorsing any particular kink, but saying approach it with curiosity and be safe about it.
Exactly. And I think that's really important, especially now. People are talking more openly about sex, trying different things.
Like he's saying, if you want to try something new, go for it. But do your research, be safe, make sure everyone's on board.
Exactly. And remember, not every sauce has got to be your favorite, right? It's about what works for you and your partner and respecting each other's, limits.
So, big question. Do you think the joy of sex, even with all this more out there stuff, is it still relevant in 2024?
I think so, yeah. Some of it might feel a little dated, sure, but that core message, being curious, playful, talking to each other, that never gets old.
It really makes you think outside the box, what truly makes you happy, how to connect with your partner on that level.
And that's a pretty awesome journey to be on, I'd say.
So, as we wrap up our deep dives into the joy of sex, Comfort talks about everyone having their own sex map. like a blueprint for what feels good. What does your map look like? What brings you joy? And how can you, share that with your partner in a way that feels good for both of you?
That's a great question to think about. And it's not a one-time thing either, right?
Mm.
It can change, evolve as you do. Just stay curious, stay open, keep exploring.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, this is just the beginning. The joy of sex is the starting point. There's so much out there to discover. So go forth, explore, but be safe, be respectful, and most importantly, have fun.
Thanks for tuning in to Sam's Summaries. If you found this episode useful, let us know with a like, follow, and share. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to visit samfury.com to get free access to all of Sam's original summaries, which you can download as PDFs, as well as other exclusive content. It's all completely free at samfury.com.